Origin of the name Gojira. Around the world, we know him as Godzilla. In Japan, however, the world-famous monster is known as Gojira. This word was created through an amalgamation of two Japanese words, Gaira, meaning gorilla, and Kujira, meaning whale. Let's be thankful the American distributors didn't settle on referring to the monster as Go-whale, because that would have just been weird. Inspiration for Gamera. There are two accounts of how the idea of Gamera first came to be, but they both involved producer Masaichi Nagata while he was on board a plane and then glanced out the window. One story is that he spotted an island that looked like the shell of a giant turtle. Another record is that he actually saw a cloud, which resembled a giant turtle shell that was flying amongst the clouds. In either case, this event inspired him with a creative idea. Once he returned to Daiei Studios, he said to his creative team, "I want you to make me a giant turtle." This was similar to how Toho's producer, Tomoyuki Tanaka, came up with the idea for Godzilla. He was on a plane, then glanced out the window and pondered at the idea of a giant creature living under the ocean depths. Uncredited cameo. Just before commencing his second rampage on Tokyo, Godzilla first collides with a line of electrical towers used as a barrier to the city. The electricity from the towers is activated once someone in the room flips a switch. Several engineers are present in the room, but we never see the face of the man who turned on the power, as only his hand appears on screen. If you've ever wondered whose hand that was, it was actually the hand of the movie's director, Ishiro Honda. Jiris as Godzilla? Jiris is one of the most infamous kaiju from the Ultra series, as his suit was clearly made from an older Godzilla suit with only minor alterations added to it. Originally, the monster was supposed to look drastically different than what eventually appeared on screen. Unfortunately, the schedule and budget didn't allow the crew to build an original prop from scratch. To combat this issue, Eiji Tsuburaya decided to snag the head of the 1965 Godzilla suit from Monster Zero, place it on the body of the 1964 Godzilla suit from Mothra vs. Godzilla, coat the whole body with streaks of yellowish paint, and attach a large frill to the neck to make it into a new monster. Using a Godzilla suit, a prop of a monster made and owned by Toho Studios, wasn't too difficult of a task for Mr. Tsuburaya to pull off, as he was still the head of Toho's special effects department. Godzilla, foreign king of the box office. Released in the US only 11 years after World War II, Godzilla King of the Monsters became the first Japanese film to become a commercial success in the US. And more, it was the fourth foreign production to gross over $1 million at the American box office. Eastern monster televised by a Western monster maker. Following Godzilla's highly successful theatrical release in America, the television distribution rights were later sold to RKO, the TV subsidiary of RKO Radio Pictures, the same company responsible for making King Kong, Son of Kong, and Mighty Joe Young. How's his name pronounced? For years, fans have confused the English pronunciation of Gamera's knife-headed opponent from his fifth film. In Japan, the monster is known as Giron, which stems from the French word guillotine. Due to the origin of his name, and since the letter L isn't part of the Japanese alphabet, there has been somewhat of a controversy in English-speaking territories, where people can't decide if the monster's true name is either Giron or Gilon, with the monster's name even being different across various media releases over the years. This debate can be settled simply by understanding how Japanese vocabulary use R in place of L. which usually comes off as Ra, Ri, Ra, Re, or Ro, and also by listening to how the Japanese actors pronounce the monster's name.
あれはうちの番犬、議論よ。怪獣同士戦わせるのよ。議論出しなさい。議論のリモコン装置のスイッチが入ったんだ。
If the English pronunciation of the monster's name was Gilan, the Japanese pronunciation would be Giron-ne. Since the actors clearly pronounced the name without the added U, the monster's name in both Japanese and English is Giron. The UFO that became Rodan. In his debut feature, the scene where Rodan is pursued by, and later decimates, a fighter jet was partly based on a true story that happened a decade earlier. On January 7, 1948, 25-year-old American pilot Captain Thomas F. Mantell of the Kentucky Air National Guard blacked out and crashed his P-51 Mustang while in pursuit of a UFO. The event was one of the most publicized early UFO incidents, with two other UFO-related incidents occurring later the same year, the Child's Wooded UFO encounter and the Gorman dogfight. Whatever the strange target really was that Captain Mantell pursued on that fateful day, no one truly knows, not even today. What is known is that his tragedy marked a dramatic shift in public concern about UFO phenomena. Not only could these strange objects be of extraterrestrial origin, but they could be potentially hostile as well. Like father, like daughter. One of the main characters of Ultraman Tiga is Officer Reina Yanase, played by Takami Yoshimoto. Miss Yoshimoto is the eldest daughter of Japanese actor Susumu Kurobe, who's well known in the Toku community for playing Shin Hayata, the human host of the original Ultraman. Before Gaus got a space clone. The first monster Tom and Akio spot on Terra was a different variety of Gaus, which the boys quickly dubbed Space Gaus. Originally, a brand new monster, named Manga, was intended for this scene. Unfortunately, the creators had no time or money to build any props for a new monster. To solve this little dilemma, they took the suit and the miniature flight prop of Gaus, and gave them a silver makeover, to portray the kaiju as a space variant of its species. According to conceptual art, Manga, whose design was based on a flying squirrel, was supposed to have dark blue fur, a pair of ox-like horns, a mace-like object at the tip of its tail, and membranes between his upper and rear legs, which gave him the ability to fly, or glide, an ability similar to Toho's Varan. From baseball to bird food to Godzilla. Before wrecking a major city in the usual Godzilla style, Rodan scooped up a couple who just started their honeymoon. The husband of the pair, named Nakagawa, was played by Seiji Onaka, a Japanese baseball player. 11 years after serving as an appetizer for one reptilian kaiju, Mr. Onaka would later play a reptilian kaiju, which turned out to be Godzilla, in 1967's Son of Godzilla, a role he shared with Haruo Nakajima and Hiroshi Sakita. Acting in sub-zero water. Notice the plume of steam that forms in the water after Godzilla fires his atomic beam at Ebirah. To create this vapor effect, the effects team released liquid nitrogen into the studio pool, which dropped the temperature of the water down to a near-freezing level. While filming these scenes, Mr. Nakajima and Mr. Sakita donned a wetsuit underneath their respective rubber monster suit, which gave them partial protection from the cold water temperature. Filming the water scenes was difficult enough, even without the liquid nitrogen, as the pool was always cold. Haruo Nakajima recalled, "I worked overtime until about 8 o'clock every day. Even though I wore a wetsuit under the costume, I got cold, but I never got sick, because I was so tense during the filming." It took a week to film the water scenes. Ultraman Tiga in the West. Even though Golza's counterattack was episode number 18 of the series, this was the very first episode of Ultraman Tiga to be dubbed into English by 4 kids.
Go, go, go! Stop yelling, I got it floored!
Kumanga's web material. Have you ever watched Kumanga spew webs and jokingly thought, oh look, there goes the silly string? Well, that wasn't silly string. In fact, Kumanga's webs were actually made of rubber dissolved in thinner, which was sprayed out through a mechanism in the prop's mouth. A similar tactic was used to create the silk spewed out by Mothra's larva form. Ghidorah's background. Ghidorah's name derives from Ghidorah, the Japanese pronunciation of Hydra. His appearance is based on the mythical beast Yamada no Orochi, which is the Asian equivalent to the Hydra from Greek mythology. The Ghidorah in GMK is said to be not fully grown yet. In his adult stage, he would grow up to 8 heads, the same as the Orochi in mythology. Zone Fighter's original premiere concept. Godzilla and Gigan were supposed to appear in the premiere episode of Zone Fighter. This was changed to feature Zone Fighter fighting 2 Kyoju, Red Spark and Jikaro. Godzilla wouldn't appear until episode number 4, and Gigan wasn't showcased until episode number 11, also featuring Godzilla. Two Gameras in one scene. In the Lawless Monster Zone, we're introduced to 3 Kaiju in a single scene: Red King, Chandlar, and Magular. Red King was played by Teruo Aragaki, who played Gamera in Gamera vs. Baragon, Gamera vs. Gaus, and Gamera vs. Virus. Magular was played by Mr. Aragaki's soon-to-be successor to Gamera, Yumenosuke Izumi, who donned the role of the hard-shelled reptile in Gamera vs. Giron and Gamera vs. Jiger.